Just say.
You should be all set.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is the meeting of the Apportionment Commission, meeting to discuss the matters related to apportionment after we have finally received the data from the Secretary of State, received new deadlines from the Supreme Judicial Court, and are ready to get going. We're going to be having, we're privileged this morning to have Secretary of State Shenna Bellows and head of the Elections Division and Corporate Division Julie Flynn joining us to tell us a bit about the data, how to use it, and how we can coordinate best with them to perhaps avoid some hiccups that occurred at the last time. I want to first just go through and check and see if we make sure we have a quorum. The members of the commission I see here and are Senator Paul Davis, Senator Rick Bennett, Representative Ann Perry, Representative Michael Brennan, Representative Theodore Kryzak, Representative Joshua Morris, Bev Uhlenheit, Matt Moonen, and Joe Turcotte. Is there anybody who's a member of the commission that I missed?
Mr. Chair, I'm here, Josh Tardy.
Oh, there's Josh Tardy. Okay, thank you very much, Josh. And so when we have well more than a quorum, so we're ready to proceed with the matters. And the first matter before the commission, and say thank you all for joining this morning, is the consideration for approval of the draft minutes, which were previously circulated to the commission. Have everybody had a chance to look at those, or can I have a motion to approve or disapprove? If
So move approval.
Okay, thank you, Senator Bennett. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. And let me then say, does anybody have any objection to approving them? If there is no objection, I will consider the minutes approved. Hearing no objection, the minutes are considered approved. What we'll proceed to next is on the agenda, basically report regarding the receipt of the Census Bureau information from the Secretary of State Elections Division, and also discussion by the Secretary of State and the Secretary of State Elections Division as to how best we can develop a process working together to get a result, finally, that a product from us that is most effective and usable with them, including some concerns they had about the last process, such things as, in Portland doing, I think it was the Senate districts east to west and the House districts north to south, or things like that. But ways, the key thing is, and for all of us to be concerned about, is ways to make sure that we don't have, at least in voting areas, individual precincts having to have, 2 or 3 separate ballots depending on what street you live on for people, and things like that, and other things they'd like to talk about. And basically, this discussion would cover items 3 and 4 on the agenda. In the matter. And with this, I would welcome Secretary of State Shenna Bellows. Thank you very much, Joe, for joining us, Shenna, by the way, my former state senator. And Julie Flynn, the head of the Elections Division, and far and away the greatest expert on elections and drawing districts and everything else in the state of Maine. And maybe we should just tell her, go do this, Julie, and see what we can do from there. But anyways, Secretary of State Bellows and Elections Division all-time boss, Julie Flynn, welcome.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to the state expert on these issues, Deputy Secretary Flynn. We are so fortunate to have her expertise. So I'm here for moral support and to be a resource in any way the commission.
Okay.
The best resource is Deputy Secretary Flynn.
Thank you. And good morning, Julie. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. And I really have to say, I may be an expert on the implementation. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on where to draw the lines. Obviously, that's what the commission members have to do. But I certainly think there are decisions that the caucuses can make, or the commission as a whole can make, to leave more jurisdictions wholly within a House district or a Senate district, if that's possible. I know there have to be split districts in order to meet the number of citizens or to be within a tolerance of what the ideal population size is for each district. But I know there have been times where there are splits that go through the middle of an unorganized territory, or even a named township. And often when you get to those areas, you're not putting the line down the center of a street, a very obvious feature. Sometimes in these unorganized territories, the census blocks the boundaries of census blocks may go along natural features that sometimes of the year are evident. Sometimes there is a river there. Sometimes it's a dry stream bed. Sometimes when these census blocks were created, the line went along a railroad, and maybe now there's no visible railroad. It's just the remainder of the railroad bed. So the outcome of the decisions about where you put the lines impacts how elections are administered and where voters understand, or candidates understand, their districts to be, and where voters understand, what district they're in and where, what candidates are going to vote for. So we're looking at it as purely at a lens of how difficult or easy is it to administer the election. And when you have a lot of split districts, that means ballot styles that are, multiple ballot styles in a voting precinct in Lewiston or Portland. Most notably, I think Lewiston has a district that has 7 different ballot styles. And so to the extent that we can avoid that or limit the number of different overlapping or intersecting districts between House and Senate, and then when county commissioner districts are drawn, the better, because the voters may not understand that I live on one side of the street, my neighbor, and I know I vote at this voting place. My neighbor on the other side of the street may think they vote at the same place and for the same candidates, and they don't, because the line has gone down the middle of the street. And so I think people that have been used to this are very familiar with what I'm talking about. And I'm just asking that, that you consider that, because what happens at the very first election that you have in June of 2022, the primary election, people may be given the wrong ballots, depending on, how many different ballot styles there are in a precinct, and how easy it is to understand where the districts go. And then the other administrative thing that we'd ask is, you're going to hopefully come to a decision that you can present to the full legislature for a vote. And you'll do that. I mean, each caucus is going to use your own tools to come up with the maps and where you think the best, component municipalities are within each district, and how you divide it. But when you come together and you agree on something, if there could be an agreement on one of the systems and the maps that are produced, And those can be presented to us along with just the law that gets passed by the legislature. That eliminates our office having to take a fresh look and go and design them from scratch. So we will have the tools to do that, but it is a whole other step. And we are looking at possibly having about 6 weeks that encompass, I mean, this is proposing that this commission and the legislature as a whole gets their work done within the 45 days. And that gives us the most time, but it's going to be done, you know, over major holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas. And in order for us to make sure that we get things done, you know, we need as much time as possible, and we hate to have to go back and reinvent the wheel. So that's my sort of general plea, and certainly I'm willing to, you know, talk specifics if the commission has specifics as you go along, or but I guess that would be, and if folks need to know sort of what we do when we get when the legislature passes the law, let's say it's done completely by the legislature, nothing has to go to the court. We take the public law that is passed and we look at the description of the districts. We have to make what's called boundary descriptions. And so we'll say, okay, Senate District 1 consists of the minor civil divisions of, and list all the cities, towns, plantations, and unorganized townships that are fully within that district. And then if something is split, then we will describe the line that splits and say, you know, northerly along, you know, Main Street in this particular town until it hits the intersection with this street, and then westerly, and then sort of just describe that boundary along with the list of all the other towns. So that's one product we have to do. The second product is the maps. And again, if you've already agreed upon a set of maps, it may invite some error if we have to go back to the law and try to create our own maps in the state's GIS system. So again, if we can get those, that's great. And we'll verify them against the law and make sure we don't have any questions. And then those could be published. And then the more difficult part, which has been in effect since 2007, is to then go into our central voter registration system and at the street level, be able to insert the new districts. And we have to do that in conjunction with our system vendor. It's done by writing computer scripts to insert the correct code, but where there are split districts, and particularly where there's House and Senate and County Commissioner district splits, as there were in 2013 in Portland, Auburn, and Lewiston, then we have to go down to the street segment and say, you know, the odd side of the street between, you know, number 1 and number 10, or number 11 rather, are in this district, or this set of districts. And we have to test all of that and hopefully be ready to go live on January 2nd so that parties and candidates can begin to get this data from us so they can run campaigns. So that's really it in a nutshell, I guess, and be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Julie, is there, do you folks yourselves, I know that each caucus is using a separate sort of computer, let's call it digital program to develop their recommendations and considerations. Does the Secretary of State's office have a similar system that we could work with maps in the Secretary of State's office, or are you basically waiting for something to come from the commission and the caucuses for that?
Well, we really have to see where the lines are drawn based on the public law that you adopt. And so we don't have the part, we have the state's software is a state GIS software. We don't I think it allows us to do the maps or draw the maps once you've decided where the lines go. What we don't have is a program that says, okay, if I take Portland and I take this set of blocks, that's going to give me the population I need for this house district. And that's, or if I move one street over and it includes these other census blocks, we don't have that part of the system. So we can't really do the apportionment that you folks are working on. That takes another set of tools. But what we do have is in the GIS system is a way to look at that once the districts are created, to look at that layer and go in and say, okay, if the line goes down Brighton Avenue in Portland, I can see, and it starts at this intersection and then ends at this intersection. I can go into the map and see what house numbers are on this side of the street that are going to be in this house district, or on the opposite side of the street that are going to be in the other house district. Because we have to go into the voter registration system and say, all the voters that live on, Brighton Avenue on the odd side of the street between, 1 and 11 are going to be in this house district, this Senate district, this county commissioner district. And make sure that we test all of those changes that we make by going in and searching voters and going in and getting street lists and making sure that everybody has been put into the correct district. And also in sending it out to the towns to say, please review these, because they have, ground level knowledge. When I was in Portland 27 years ago, and we did redistricting on the local level in 1993, and I had to drive, actually go out and drive along the street to see what's the last house number on this side of the intersection and the next house number. Now we can see those points on a map and are able to do it virtually, but sometimes there still is, again, if it's a feature, goes along Fall Brook. Well, there's no water in Fall Brook, 11 months of the year. You have to go and see where that, what houses that cuts behind and what houses are on the other side of it. So,
yeah. Have you distributed material to the caucuses, or have the caucuses, as far as you know, gotten the material, the Census Bureau material, directly from the Census Bureau's website?
It's my belief that the caucuses were able to just download the data files from the census directly.
Okay.
We're not going to get a communication on. We will get that same information by September 30th on like thumb drives and actual, media with all the files, put together. But I think what was able to be downloaded as of last Thursday is exactly what the caucus needs. Each caucus needs to start looking at their data.
Okay. One other sort of point, and then I'm going to open it up for any questions, and then there's some other issues to talk about too, is I think it would be useful if each of the caucuses had one individual who would be designated to interact with the Secretary of State's office, and whom the Secretary of State's office during the course of the caucus work could contact, or the people at the caucuses could contact the Secretary of State's office. So if possible, and it obviously doesn't have to be done right now, if each of the caucuses could contact Secretary of State Bellows and Julie Flynn and identify one person who could be the contact, both when the Secretary of State's office wants to reach out and when the caucus wants to get assistance, advice, receive information from the Secretary of State's office. I think that would be very useful to try to work together to develop districts that are as, meet the standards of the law, but also meet the standards of the concerns that Julie Flynn has just been articulating. So if the next week or so that the caucuses could each designate some one person. Can be a commission member or can be just a staff member or consultant working with the caucus, who would be the caucus's primary contact with the Secretary of State's office. I think I would appreciate that. I think that would make our system work better. Any questions from any of the commission members for Julie Flynn? If not, I'm going to have more questions for the Secretary, or issues for the Secretary of State's office. But any questions right now? Any commission members? And I don't see any. Emery Younger is going to hopefully looking at this. We have, and I very much appreciate Emery Younger's assistance on this, because he's sort of an age where he inherently knows this computer stuff and can react with it almost viscerally without having to do a lot of thinking. But seeing no questions. The other things I indicated is the elections division staff is available to assist the commissions and all. And also, I hope the elections division staff is maybe available, including helping with the county commissioner districts, which we've got to talk about a little later in the agenda on that. And I hope you stay around for that, Julie, because that seems to be an issue where there's some uncertainty. As a matter of fact, there's a sort of a pending referendum that may affect how much work we have to do in one county, and it's important. But anyways, all right, I think we've covered that. And again, any other questions on the Secretary of State's office? If that, I'm going to move. Basically, this covers 3 and 4 in the agenda. I'm going to move to item 5, which is only going to be brief. After that, any other questions, Secretary of State's office? Okay, well, thank you very much for this part, but please stay around. I think there's going to be other issues come up later, particularly with the county commissioner districts, which we have to do a little more thinking about, and also with different timelines and things like that. The next area on the agenda was discussion with the Attorney General's office, and it was John Bolton, about the deadlines, the Supreme Court order, and all that, identifying the deadlines for legislative action and for commission action, and also how we deal with the deadlines on the county commissioner districts. I sent the commission a memo on those issues, which was also reviewed by John Bolton. John Bolton's taking a well-deserved vacation this week, so he isn't available to do that. But the one thing about the memo that I sent that I need to review a little bit after discussion with the Attorney General's office was regard to the deadlines. The Attorney General's office, John Bolton, a couple others he consulted with, feels quite strongly that the commission should be focused on getting the county district decision-making done by the time of the commission deadline for all of its apportionment work and for presentation to the legislature, that deadline being September 27th. I perhaps wasn't as precise on that, because I recognize that for the county commissioner districts, the plan doesn't have to be submitted to the legislature until January 15th of 2022. And theoretically, the legislature could simply ask people associated with the commission to continue to provide advice afterwards. But the AG's office, and I don't want to differ with anyway, thinks we really ought to focus on getting the county commission districts drawn and done by the deadline for the commission to report. And similarly, by the way, to the way that the commission did their work in 2013, because you'll notice the 2013 commission report, unanimous report, did include the county commissioner districts in that. Okay, the next thing I wanted to do was basically to discuss the processes for the timing and work of the commission and the caucuses in developing plans for the House, Senate, and congressional districts. And I attached a memo to you that sort of I went through and developed from the Constitution, from the statutes, from the 2013 unanimous report, and from prior Supreme Court decisions addressing the standards for apportionment. When I say Supreme Court, I mean Maine Supreme Court decisions addressing standards for apportionment in the time since the apportionment amendments were adopted to the Constitution in 1975. And those are the basic standards. But anyways, what processes do we want to have for the work of the commission interrelating with the caucuses? Do we want the caucuses to sort of go off on their own for a while and report back and all? And I'd like to particularly receive advice from people who have been done commission redistricting work before as to how we do that. I would appreciate it. Any observations? How much should the commission interact with the caucuses? Should we have particular contact points with the caucuses? We now have a situation where we have offices all on one floor along one hallway in the Cross Building, with one of the caucuses being in 205, one of the caucuses being in 213, and the commission office being inside the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee room in room 206, but in the committee office within that room. Any observations on from the commissioners or others about how you think we should proceed in terms of interacting, or just waiting for a while, or what's the commission done so far? I've sometimes seen a couple people in the offices, but not much. Any observations there about what's going on, what we should anticipate? I know it's a little soon after the data just came in and your folks are getting organized and getting settled, but any comments there about what to do?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. In the past, what has certainly worked is communication between the caucuses, designated sort of spokespersons, and I think each caucus can sort of, in the commission, can sort of figure that out in the upcoming few days. And I also think it's pretty helpful for you, Mr. Chair, to have communication with the various caucuses on this reapportionment commission, as well as our respective consultants. And I know that Mr. Emery, our consultant, I think has already been given your contacts and may have already reached out to you. And sort of the Republicans invite you to come on into our office as you see fit, and can show you the progress that we hope we will be making with respect to the drafting of our maps. And then as we sort of, as each side sort of unveils their proposed maps for discussion purposes, we'll keep you apprised. And then as appropriate, you should call a public meeting so that the public knows the progress we're making or not. And that's sort of how it's gone in the past. And I don't see any reason why that can't go forward now. I think, thank Emery and the legislature for giving us the physical accommodations as we've had in the past.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Representative Brennan, I think I saw your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Justice Alexander. And my comments are not necessarily based on prior experience similar to Josh Tardy and some others, but I'm struck by the urgency in terms of timing that we all face. And I just think it's important even today for the commission possibly to set a date for another meeting of the commission where we would start to look at maps and that we would start to solicit public input. Because again, the timeline on this is so condensed. And I just think that we could put ourselves unnecessarily in a difficult situation if all of a sudden it's mid-September and we haven't seen maps and had a public discussion about this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments and observations?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Matt. Matt, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo what Representative Brennan had to say. I think, this is an incredibly tight timeline. And it's really important that the public have a chance to be heard. So it feels like that should not be on week 5, day 6. It feels like it should be a lot sooner than the 6 weeks expire. So it feels to me like we should prioritize getting a public hearing. I think that will put pressure on the caucuses and their staffs to get to work and come with proposals and be ready to present those to the public so that we can actually accomplish all of this in the 6-week timeline. The other thing I want to say is, the county commission part makes me nervous. This isn't, like I said, an incredibly tight timeline. It's a lot to do 151 House districts, 35 Senate districts, and 2 congressional districts in such a short period of time. And to add county commissioner districts on top of that when we don't actually have to do that, it just seems like one more burden that we're putting on all of ourselves that may not be necessary. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate that. And I know the county commission districts are longer away, but unfortunately, the Constitution says, and the Attorney General supports that at least the commission is supposed to get something out by their deadline, and we'll have to do what we can do. Though maybe it'll have to be something that's on a different track than the legislative districts and the congressional districts. But anyways, I think one thing that would be very useful is, and I appreciate the invitation to drop by the offices, and I will do that to try to see, and I will try to sort of get some relationship, as you have suggested, the 3 of you suggested, with each of the caucus, the people who are doing the actual work of the caucuses, quite soon. And to see what's going on with the maps and all. Right now, I would point out we're just getting the software into the computer equipment, and I was over in the commission office yesterday, and they were just organizing the map printers and trying to get them keyed up and keyed into the computers that are going to be working with the caucuses. So I can't turn around and say, okay, we want maps tomorrow. Because in fact, some of the software hasn't been received yet. And the map printers are a pretty large, impressive document. They were running a couple sort of maps through, but so we probably won't have an idea till sometime into next week as to how soon the maps will get done, because hopefully by that time, the software that is being developed and installed will be will have been received and started to utilize and all. But we can certainly hope that things go along, and definitely at the end of the meeting, we will set up another meeting. I will say I'm anticipating trying to get thinking about a meeting sometime during the week following Labor Day. You think that's Matt? Do you think that's too long a time or whatever? I just think it's going to be difficult before then to start thinking about getting maps.
No, Mr. Chair, I think shortly after Labor Day sounds good. I think people will be paying attention at that point, realizing summer's over, and hopefully our caucuses will have something to put forward.
Okay. And are you and all interacting with your caucus now, or is that still something that's being set up?
I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, our caucuses talking with each other? We have
Okay.
consultants that we've hired that we're working with, and
Yeah.
we're communicating. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and some of your consultants are here, or are they out of state? Your principal consultants. I got an email from one of them suggests they're sort of going to be working from away.
I'm not sure about the Senate
Okay.
Democrats, Mr. Chair. The House Democrats consultants are here in the state of Maine.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you.
So Justice Alexander,
Go ahead,
I just
Mike.
looked at the calendar, and the Wednesday after Labor Day is September 8th. So if we were to have a meeting at that time, would your expectation be that maps would be presented and there would be a public hearing? Because if we were to push it back any further, it would put us in quite a time crunch. So, and again, I'm not pushing for, exact details, but given what you've said and other people said, it would seem to make sense if we're going to have our next meeting on the 8th, that we should set an expectation for our caucuses to have maps and have the opportunity for the public to at least take a first cut at what the maps might look like.
You give him a call and tell him I'm busy all day.
What do other people think? Based on my discussion so far, I don't know that if we're going to have a public hearing about would have a public hearing about maps on the 8th. I would assume we'd want to have the maps available before then, which would indicate the maps ought to be available before Labor Day. I think that's going to be tough. And even if we're just talking about the legislative and congressional district maps, I don't know. So please, we have other people here that are more expert in this than me. What do others think?
Justice Alexander, if I might.
Go ahead.
Thank you. A question I have is, are we planning to have public input on the caucus maps, or are we hoping to achieve some level of consensus before having public comment period? How does that generally work?
I would anticipate public comments once we have something that the commission has reviewed. That's why I'm wondering, I think we ought to have a meeting to talk about where things are, but I just don't know that we could have maps by the 8th that have had some commission review. I mean, because I can anticipate caucus maps and they may be different. There was an article in the Bangor Daily News today that had some sort of draft maps. Don't know where they came from, but some kind of somewhat some strange districts and some of those. This was just for the congressional districts, and I just don't know. My thinking would be that the commission would maybe have proposals from the caucuses and have public hearings on those. And perhaps maps, or perhaps it would simply be, a listing of what is in what district. For example, an easy one is what towns in Kennebec County are we going to move from the first district to the second district? Because that appears to be the only choice in terms of developing the congressional districts, is to move certain towns from one district, from the first district to the second district to reduce or end the population imbalance there. But
so just to be clear, what I think I heard, Mr. Chairman, is that you think that the caucus maps would be subject to public comment and public hearing, or?
No, because I know that you have some difficult work yourselves to do on those things. And I think what we would need is proposals from the caucuses, perhaps that have already been discussed with the commission.
So just, if I may weigh in on this, and then I'll shut up. I think I would prefer to see us drive toward a consensus, try to get that done as soon as possible. There may be areas of difference, but if we could try to have a date by which we achieve consensus, if we could, and then present a map preferably, there may be, who knows what will come out of that, but hopefully, optimistically, maybe we could get something that we could then take to the public for their comment, maybe fine tuning after the fact. But I think it could be kind of messy, particularly given the time frame, to try to put forward like multiple different versions of maps to the public for their comment and all that before we actually try to do our work, which is to achieve consensus. And I also just flag that this September 8th, there's a meeting of the Government Oversight Committee of the Legislature on which I serve, and some other members have an interest in. And so that's a difficult morning for me, although the afternoon would be possible.
Okay, well, that was just a date that sort of we were just kicking around, but
I know, but once before it got stuck into somebody's craw, I thought I'd mention
yeah.
that.
Oh, okay, no, that's all right. And we, you have other responsibilities as a lot do, and we definitely want to try to accommodate that, because you're one that has a good bit of experience with this redistricting work. So, anyways, but I would hope we would try to develop a consensus. And my thought about the meeting on the 8th would be to discuss working towards that, unless I'm wrong. I mean, and again, Rick or Mike Brennan, anybody else chime in. I just think we're not going to have firm maps by the week after Labor Day, whenever it is. And certainly not by then have things that already could have, called consensus maps or consensus issues, if you will. I mean, we might be able to say, well, here's a sort of view of how to do and I'm taking the easiest one, obviously, how to do the first district and the second congressional district. And there's one recommendation from one caucus, and there's one recommendation for another caucus, and this is what the commission thinks. And of course, we couldn't say what the commission thinks till we have a meeting. So I just think it's, I don't know.
Mr.
Other
Chair.
folks tell me when you think you're going to have the first sort of maps that could be discussed outside of your caucus, or the first district organizations, let's call it, outside of your caucus, even if it wasn't a map, might be available.
So, Mr. Chair, I think from the Republican side of things, I think it would be fair for us to just represent to you that a congressional proposal and a state Senate proposal should be available to be shared with our Democrat colleagues and you, Mr. Chair, by the end of next week. The House maps, state House map, excuse me, will take a little bit more time than that. I haven't quite figured out how we're going to approach as a commission the county commissioner's map, but I think we'll be able to share internally the congressional and state Senate map proposal by the end of next week.
But when you say the end of next week, then you're talking about the 27th, or?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And if I could suggest, if there was a way for our two caucuses in this commission to drive towards a consensus date,
yeah,
I would suggest a week of September 20th would be a practical deadline that would allow us to thread the needle for public comment and to go from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's you said September 20th to have a something we'd already would have distributed to the public and
Correct.
Yeah, and that would be for the House, Senate, and congressional districts, and perhaps the county commissioners. But yeah.
Correct.
Okay. What's in terms of people who've been working with the Democratic caucus? Bev Uhlenhake maybe, or Matt Moonen. What's your sense of where things might be going?
I guess I'll start since you named me, but I don't think I can be as specific as Josh was about timing for proposals. I have to say I'm uncomfortable with the idea of having public comment that late in the process. I don't think public comment is intended for us to come with fully fleshed out, fully agreed upon, fully compromised maps, and then they're accomplished and they're done, and then pretend like we're taking public input. I think public comment needs to come sooner, before everything is negotiated. We've already received feedback from constituents of citizens of Maine who had strong concerns about their county commissioner districts, and I don't know anything about their county commissioner districts. So, public comment is intended for people to educate us on things we may need to consider before we compromise on our maps.
But we could do that by having, public, inviting public to comment based on what they know about the districts now and what they know about the population changes. We perhaps could at least have that sort of, what you seem to be looking at as sort of advanced public comment, if you will. We could do that on a September 8th or 9th or 10th meeting, maybe.
Right. So I think
lapse.
there's two things going on. We had suggested the week of the 8th. It sounds like the day of the 8th doesn't work, but the day of the 9th is 4 weeks after we received the data, and less than 3 weeks remaining for us to complete our work. So it feels to me that if we're more than halfway through our time period, that's an appropriate time to take public comment on what folks have to say about the maps. I also have to say, if our Republican colleagues are prepared to have maps ready by the end of next week, then it sounds to me like they can have maps ready for public comment by whenever that meeting is held as well.
Well, I think what it was particularly indicated was, sort of draft things that maybe could be, looked at to see if we can develop a consensus. I didn't know that, because as I think we all know from experience in this area, once something becomes exposed, it then can become, controversial, and maybe positions are more difficult to change. So I don't know.
May I just ask
what if-
a question?
Go ahead,
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Benson.
So I agree totally with what Matt was suggesting about public comment. I guess for me, the question, not having been on the commission in prior sessions, I don't know what is actually involved with public comment. I think in today's world, it's most useful to have public comment starting now. I mean, let's start listening to people, because I would like to hear, from concerns that as people are looking at the maps, as in the press, it's been elsewhere. So I think we should have a continuing stream of public comment. I guess the question I was put kind of badly earlier was, once we agree and we have actually a proposal, is there usually a process for maybe more of a public hearing or public process to, before we finalize it and everything is pretty much agreed? Is it customary in this process to have some sort of public hearing or something like that prior to the finalization? Because I would be in favor of that, certainly. But I'd also think that we should start having public comment immediately, as I suggested regarding the county commissioner districts at our meeting in June. I think we should just start listening to people.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. To get observations, and particularly again with the county commissioner districts, perhaps also with the House districts, the Senate districts. There's only 35 of them, and some of those you just sort of take from one end of the state and work it through, and that I think is more likely to be able to develop a consensus. But that's right. I mean, I have no issue with sort of inviting public comment before we have things finalized, but I'm glad to hear that the Republicans may have something by the end of next week. Sounds like the Democrats may not, but perhaps we could have just a sort of a thing that invites public comment, perhaps rather than talk about September 9th or something like that, perhaps just a general hearing on September, perhaps September 1st or 2nd. Labor Day is on the 6th, to talk about it. I couldn't do the 3rd, and that's the day before the holiday anyways. A lot of places close early, including the courts. What about the idea of having a just sort of a hearing, basically to receive public comments and suggestions on the 2nd? I would point out also the commission website and the notices we put out have invited public comment and written submissions. We got one request to comment in this hearing, or request in a timely manner, which was by 9:30 yesterday, 9:30 a.m. yesterday, because we need to have some time to, get the Zoom links and things like that. I hope we're going to get more public comment. I've frankly been surprised by how little we've gotten, considering we have information on the website. We have information that the commission itself has put out. We have information the speaker's office has put out, and we've received, not too much. There's been some comment and speculation in the press, but in terms of what we perceive, nothing. Perhaps we ought to have a hearing primarily to receive public comment. And we can also sort of have a discussion about where we are on September 1st or 2nd. What do people think about that?
Well, Justice Alexander, I want to be very courageous and say I agree with everybody. And I think Senator Bennett and Josh Tardy and Matt have made good points. And I think what we're kind of arriving at is that simultaneously we need to figure out a way to have immediate public input. But I think we should place a priority on trying to develop a consensus. And whatever process or ways that we need to have discussions that move us towards a consensus map, while we can simultaneously solicit public input, may be able to move us in a positive direction without having hard stop points. So I think if we could ask the staff to develop the maps as quickly as possible in the caucus, and to have formal and informal discussions about where there's some agreement, but also at the same time look at ways, either the beginning of September, online, or other ways to solicit public input. I think that would be very helpful. And as everybody knows that's here, I mean, typically in the legislative process, somebody puts an idea on the table in terms of a bill, we have a public hearing, then we try to reach consensus or some agreement after that. But I think in this case, we want to move parallel and simultaneously to try to achieve consensus, but have public input.
Yeah, one thing I anticipate myself doing, and people have asked me, well, what are you going to do? In terms of public, in terms of the commission? I says, if I'm getting public, visibility a lot, it may be because I've failed, because my view of my function, and I'm going to be starting to try to reach out later this week and early next week, is sort of to act as a mediator to try to get things going, get things organized, and get things ready for the commission. Because I agree. I sense from everything everybody said, everybody agrees the best thing we can do is we got to get a consensus result. But the way to do that is, getting a lot of public ideas, but sort of also informal contact, so we don't need to have sort of hard and fast positions, which can occur when things become public. But anyway,
Mr. Chair?
Representative Kryzak, go ahead.
Thank you. I think we should do the public hearing at this stage, because if we have 13 choices that the caucus has for the congressional district, it will help me to decide which of those 13 I'm going to pick. If somebody from way up north, because I'm in southern Maine, comes in with concerns about their district, that's going to help me make a decision on which of the 13 congressional maps I'm going to choose to put forward to the Democratic caucus. So at this time, hearing people's concerns from different parts of the states, I think will be very helpful. And then when we get down to the Republicans' choice and the Democrats' choice, then, you know, people can give input again then. But for us to take the 13 choices that we have for congressional district and put that before public hearing, I don't think is a way to go. But if we have them come in and say, I have a real concern about this part of the district for the congressional or for the Senate, that's going to be very helpful for us in the stage that we're in now.
Okay. So you would be in favor of just having an open public hearing to take ideas and stuff like that sometime before Labor Day?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
go ahead.
It's actually a question for Josh, since he's been in this in the past. Although if there are others here who've done this in the past, it's for you too. My understanding is people have brought their own maps that they've done, homemade, their own ideas, their own suggestions. That would of course be welcome, but I wonder if we're going to have public comment, if it's also helpful for folks to have something to react to. It's hard to know what suggestions to make if you don't know what the base is that you're operating off of, or how to suggest changes. So I guess my question is, in the past at these public hearings, have each caucus brought proposals that everybody can react to? Or is it just a free-for-all with suggestions that might be relevant or might not at all be relevant to what's actually happening? Josh, do you have experience on that?
Yeah, I think both occurred. I think we had maps that we proposed, both caucuses proposed, and had this big map showing part of the agenda, and then the public comment, although there was never a lot, was more in general terms about a particular district. And so I certainly can recall, my very first reapportionment commission meeting where proposals were vetted. There was some fun that was had on behalf of both sides in their map proposals. There's, I can recall a congressional district that split the state vertically in half, east-west, and issues like that. We don't have the luxury of time to have entertainment value public commission meetings. So I think we need to get right to it with really the constitutional restrictions on the redistricting as the compelling parameter, really. And so I think that the sooner that each caucus can get proposals out for public vetting, the better. And then I guess we're just going to have to get there as a commission. We're going to have to get to consensus maps. Then I would think, I think what you and Mr. Bennett suggested, getting public comment as we go through this process is necessary, and then getting public comment on our final overall consensus commission proposal, I think makes sense as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I totally agree. I mean, for transparency's sake, the press is going to be watching, the public is going to be watching. It just feels really weird to have a public hearing with nothing to comment on. So it makes sense to me that each side brings real concrete proposals, knowing full well that they aren't agreed to yet, and that there's time still to go. But it feels important to me that the public has something to react to by the time we have a public hearing.
Okay, I listening to this discussion, then I think what's got to happen or should happen is I and perhaps some others reach out to the caucuses over the next couple of days and see what the timelines are to have at least sort of rough proposals. I may not have a firm map, but proposals. For example, are we going to be changing the direction that occurred with the congressional districts? Are we going to be changing how we did the Senate districts last time we did? Well, I can't say we, but it was apparent that the Senate districts were done, a lot of it by sort of having a whole lot of Senate districts and respecting the maps and the direction to try to keep communities as close as possible, but except I think there must be 6 Senate districts that kind of cannibalized Penobscot County. And whether that ought to happen again or not, I don't know, because Penobscot just seems to be in the middle of a lot of other smaller counties. And whether that type of thing ought to occur, that's sort of a general issue as to how we address it, because the direction from the Constitution, from the statutes, from the Supreme Court opinions, and from the 2013 opinion is that we try to have communities as whole as possible, and where there's an opportunity for more than one district in a community and more than two districts in a community, we develop whole districts first and then partial districts. But the reality is, if we do that, we're going to wind up with a lot of remainder sort of funny looking districts. If we make every district whole that can be whole, or every district have two and nothing outside that can't be, So I don't know. Perhaps what I ought to do is, Rick Bennett, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, just on this public comment issue, again, I think we conflate these terms, public hearing and public comment. And I just want to be clear. You said I haven't seen public comment that's come to the commission yet, but if the web page is the one that is housed in the legislature, there really is no indication of how the public can contribute their thoughts and their comments. And I'm wondering, can we, if I've got that right, is it possible to put a note on the web page? Ideally, it would be an opportunity to enter comment directly on the web page, that would be received by commission members. At the very least, I think it would be good to have an explicit header there that says, we invite public comment, here's how, and then put in an email address and maybe a written mailing address too, and then create some sort of apparatus so that all of that comment is available to the commission members as real time as possible, so we can think about it as we are doing our work, whether it's within caucus or within the full commission. Because I don't know how, maybe I've just missed it, but I don't see that currently on the page which is housing our materials. And so maybe one of the reasons we haven't received much public comment is it's really very unclear as to how to contribute it.
Okay, I think that's an excellent suggestion. And I will see to, again, we're going to get together about the webpage. I think in the next day or two, we're going to be having Susan Panett, who's, one of the nonpartisan staff from the legislature. She does work for the Judiciary Committee, but going to be joining us to help out. And that'll help get us organized and all. I think we'll definitely take a look at the webpage in the next few days and get focus on that. It may well also be there just hasn't been that much sort of focus on the issue yet, because people got a lot of other things to think about. But thank you, Rick. Definitely, that's something we can do. And back to my question, should I basically sort of work around the next few days and then perhaps get back and contact the commission next week about setting a public hearing when we have more of an idea of when people have at least some things to propose? I mean, the reality is congressional district probably isn't going to be too difficult, and the Senate districts a little more so. But the problem is right now, my sense is everybody just sort of gearing up, and we're going to have a much better idea by next week as to how soon we might have things. And I appreciate Josh's comment that it looks like the Republicans at least have some drafts by the 27th.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Mr. Chair. I agree with the sort of the points made by Mr. Moonen, in particular, that the sooner we can have a public hearing, the better. I'd like to be able to get that started and accomplished, and I would just make a sort of an editorial here that the timeline really takes a lot of imagination out of the map making here, and it really puts the constitutional restrictions is our focus. So, a congressional map, we can have, this is not going to be a map that's drawn by the press. This is going to be a map that's drawn by the constitutional restrictions, and we can all have our view on what a constitutional analysis of a congressional map is, but it's pretty clear it's going to be even or a difference of 1. And so we're going to have to get after it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Representative
just a
Kryzak.
quick question. Do we have the same restrictions as a legislature as far as letting the public know so many days ahead that we're going to have a public hearing?
We're supposed to, and I will say for this particular public hearing, we put out notice. What it does when people in the press or whatever receive the notice, I don't know. We put out the notice to our interested parties list and on our website a week ago.
Okay.
And the problem is, I think we're just starting to the point where people are going to start paying attention. Now, because we've had one request, which we will entertain for public comment today. After that week's notice, we had another person that requested it around 5 o'clock last night, and we said no, because again, we need to gear up. Because one of the things to remember about this, compared to past commission hearings, and I think we're going to have to do this next too, it's a different process where we're doing remote hearings, and I think we're going to have to keep doing that again. I don't know if you folks saw it yesterday, but the courts reimposed a mask requirement going into courthouses. So I hope we're going to be able to have sort of hybrid hearings at some point. I don't think that's going to be our next hearing, because at least hybrid hearings, if not full public in-person hearings, are best to sort of talk about here's this map and here's this map and all. But the COVID situation, which seems to be, going away less quickly than a lot of us hoped, means I think we're going to be doing remote hearings, and that means need to more advanced planning and organization in terms of how you do public comment, because it's one at a time, not calling on a room full of people. And it also makes more important quality written comments, and that's why I think Rick Bennett's suggestion that we get much more robust issue on the webpage is going to be good. So, anyways, okay. Any other comments, suggestions on the discussion of the processes? Because the way what I've taken from this discussion is we're going to do some work interacting with those of us that sort of are the commission and the caucuses, and getting some idea when there's going to be things that are going to be at least some parameters worth discussing, and then have some view back to the commission next week about that, and then scheduling a public hearing, maybe on September 2nd, probably a little later than that, but that public hearing then would be, very close to a process where we're getting more and more towards working towards consensus and having other public hearings as we get later on. Because unfortunately, this is a condensed event. Remember the 2013 commission report, the unanimous one, commented they'd had 6 months to do it. We got it 45 days. But right now we're just gearing up. And so hopefully we'll have a better idea next week if commission members are okay with that. Let me ask if anybody thinks we ought to, right now, today, schedule a hearing as opposed to us, the commission, getting back in touch with all of you next week and trying to get a hearing that most of you can attend, and it will be a remote hearing. Any comments on that? All right. Well, then I'd move on to the discussion of the county, how we deal with the county commissioners work. And again, the county commissioners, we have to basically do commission districts. I've already sent you a memo on that for the 16 counties. Mill, 3-member districts. But the Franklin County is in flux, though the current laws covering other districts says if you can keep the old districts, try to do it. And that may be the case in a number of the counties, that there is no more than sort of a 10%, 5% on either side of the median district deviance in each county, and we'll have to see that. And we're going to have to explore that in the next week. So it may not be as much work as we think, except for the uncertainty of Franklin County. But what I'd like to suggest is that the commission, basically the members from particular counties consider themselves the liaison for trying to generate interest from the people in that county in the process and comment, and also provide advice. And I hope, and I'm told the caucuses last time did proposed county commissioner districts, and I would hope they could do that again, because they're the ones that have the software to do it. Though it may well be, when you look at the populations, that the districts that were drawn last time, if they were, close to the median last time, might still be, although more population in the western part of the state, less population in the eastern part of the state, but still within the 10% median. So we'll have to explore that, and I haven't had a chance to explore that yet. I will, with what it is, and maybe what the some of the materials that the caucuses may have. But the other thing I would like, and would there be any commission members that will be interested in being sort of ones that particularly did work with regard to the county commissions, to sort of just be there, and particularly for what I see we have commission members for all, but I think 7 counties. The commission, we don't have commission members in Franklin, Hancock, Saginaw, Lincoln, Knox, Waldo, and, well, count me, in Kennebec County. But this sort of point person, or we can simply have the commission website and myself as chair and the staff be available as point persons. But I wondered if the individual commission members, at least with regard to your counties, could try to generate something there. Presumably the county commissioners, the State County Commissioners Association and the county commissioners care about this, and see what we can do. I've been surprised we haven't had as much comment about the counties yet, because when the commission was first organized by Speaker Fector, remember the law required then that we ask for 30-day comments. We did so and got almost nothing. I think we got one comment from a private citizen about counties. So we've got to sort of gear that up more, and I might have suggestions about that. But if the commission members would sort of try to act as sort of liaisons or interest generators, or whatever you want to call it, for the counties you're in, I think that would help us. And I'd be appreciative for any other suggestions for the counties. And I'd say I would hope, and in my informal contacts with the caucuses over the next few days, I'm going to ask if they could help in sort of doing some drafting for county commissioners, and perhaps ask one caucus person, either a member of this commission who's a member of the caucus, or a one of the caucus consultants or staff people or other persons associated with them to be the sort of the point person on that caucus with regard to county issues. Any other comments, suggestions, or whatever on that? Did Rick Bennett, I see you raise your hand or not? I was hoping so. Nope. Okay. Because, for example, you're in a situation where you're actually a potential point person for 2 counties. So, because your district covers both Oxford and Cumberland counties. So, anyways, any other comments?
Good point. But I think Cumberland County is well represented on the commission. So I'll just retreat to my confines of Oxford.
Okay, yeah. But okay, well, I will try to be in more contact, providing information to the commission next week after I've had some sort of informal contacts with the people who are in the caucuses then, because I think we've got to do on that and say, and maybe in half the counties, we won't need to do anything, because the districts aren't beyond the 5% either way, or 10% total deviation from the median. The current districts now aren't. So it's not like we have to sort of move districts because of the expanded population in the south. We have to sort of move districts south the way we're going to have to do in the House and Senate situations. So we'll see. Any other comments, observations, suggestions on the county things other than, please be in contact with interested persons in your county if you can sort of generate some interest, some ideas, some suggestions to whether these districts are okay or not. I think in terms of what we have to do as a matter of law, in terms of looking at our deadline, we have to look at Franklin County as 3 districts, because the decision on whether it's goes to 5 districts won't occur until November. And they've drafted a proposed arrangement with 5 districts. I don't know if that complies with the population that's currently the situation in the state, and if it doesn't, we would have to redo them. But anyways, any other comments on the county commissioners situation? And again, this is something that obviously I'll have to be back in touch with you about, as with the committee things next week. Okay. Just want to quickly go over administrative processes. Say we now do have office space. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I was wrong before. I think the Republicans caucuses are going to be working out of room 205, and I think the Democratic caucus is going to be working out of room 213. Is that correct? As far as anybody knows.
Yeah.
Okay, it is okay. And as I say, and I'm been approving when there are requests for requisitions or requests for payments or requests for contracts. I've been approving the contracts as the commission, or approving the decisions to spend as the commission asked me to do last time. The other process, remote in-person meeting, I had hoped to say, hey, we're going to try an in-person meeting, but have it hybrid next time, recognizing that a lot of you commissioners are from quite a distance away. But with the way things are going, they seem to be going a little bit in reverse now. And I'm most attentive to the court system on that. I think the reality is for right now, we're going to be looking at least our next meeting, whenever it is, right before Labor Day or the week after, as probably a remote meeting like this, which again makes sort of public input more challenging, but something we want to have. So anyways, going to the next session, other business and public comment. We do have Will Haywood representing the League of Women Voters, who wanted to make some public comment and did submit a timely request for public comment. And I would ask Mr. Haywood to join us this time.
Hello, sorry, I'm switching between the YouTube stream and the Zoom, so I will just need a moment to get in order.
We got you. You're here. Welcome.
Great. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I just want to make sure I have my remarks ready. Shall I proceed?
Go ahead.
Morning, members of the Apportionment Commission, and thank you for the opportunity today to provide comment. My name is Will Hayward, and I'm here today on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Maine. Today, I would just like to offer brief remarks on engagement with the public in this process, which I'm pleased to hear has been a focus of today's conversation. First off, I want to thank the Commission for the commitments we've heard so far to a fair and transparent process. We understand that by necessity, this process will move quickly, and we appreciate that despite this, attention is being given to public input. We're pleased to hear, for instance, that a timeline has been outlined today. Public awareness of this timeline will help facilitate public involvement in the process. I'm also pleased that the Commission has stated an interest in providing public hearings that meaningfully solicit public comment about proposed maps. Such hearings are vital to allow community concerns to be shared, particularly ones that may not appear simply by looking at a map and its town borders. There are a couple of ways we would like this Commission to consider to help facilitate meaningful public input that I would like to offer today. First, the Commission should make a serious effort to give more than adequate public notice about hearings and comment. The Commission should make an effort to reach people who are not always at the table in this process, but have a lot at stake, and consider what mediums are necessary for that outreach. One suggestion I may offer is a simple online portal for the public to submit comment, and advertisement of this portal in mediums such as newspapers and other public information sources. I'll just mention this platform worked very well for legislative testimony this past session, and we found people were very engaged with the process when they had such a portal available. Finally, special effort should be given to make the public aware about proposed split municipalities. Members of the public may be particularly interested in being aware of and providing input about such proposed splits, and we would ask that the Commission give special attention to make sure that these voices are heard. Again, I'm pleased to hear about the Commission's commitment to transparency and public engagement so far, and I look forward to hearing about your future work in this area. I would be happy to answer any questions the Commission has. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Hayward, and as you've heard today, we are trying to gear up a more sort of robust sort of online process, and we will portal and whatever. I must say it's been some frustration of myself, some of the other commissioners, the staff people working with the Commission. We put out notices. They don't. I guess the Bangor Daily News had something today about the Commission meeting, but we don't seem to get much press visibility, and that's not something we can control. And maybe now that things are getting going and the legislative session is passed and all, there'll be more visibility of that. But I must say I'm surprised at the lack of public attention to it so far. The other thing in terms of split municipalities, that's a particular problem, as you may have heard the Secretary of State office comment about with the major cities. But how do we do that? Do we avoid splitting municipalities when we have a community that has, let's say 10,000 or 11,000 residents and a legislative district that's limit that's plus or minus 9,000 or 8,900, I think, is our split point for the median point for the legislative districts this time. How do we deal with that?
I guess I would say, first off, that splits are inevitable in some points. I think that this Commission sounds like it's operating under a principle to try and minimize them as much as possible. But like you say, they will be inevitable at some points. And so what I would suggest is important is to make a particular effort to do outreach to people who may be, geographically centered around that split, because looking at a map, you can look at a map and say, oh, this road makes sense as the place to split it. It's it's a big road or something like that. But there may be communities that straddle that road that would have an interest in, being kept together, and perhaps another way would be more productive for the commission to split that district, but you wouldn't know unless you were able to solicit that comment.
Okay. Other commission members have questions for Mr. Haywood. Anybody, just speak up because I can't keep track of all the things on the top here. Okay.
May I just add one more thing?
Go ahead.
Around public engagement. I will say that, we at the league we really want to drive public engagement to this, and we've been doing this in our communications to the public, but we are also, interested in holding webinars and other events to educate the public about this process. And if anyone on the commission is interested in helping with this, we would certainly welcome that participation. Okay, well, thank you very much. We may have people that are interested. As you know, though, we're under a pressured timeline, and we've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to try to do it competently and ultimately, hopefully, with an agreed result in that time. Any other comments or anything for Mr. Haywood? Okay, well, thank you very much for participating, and we look forward to your staying engaged with the commission.
Thank you. We'd be glad to have whatever input you or representative of the League of Women Voters or anybody else wants to have to productively assist in our task. Is there any other business before I get to the last item that any other business that any member of the commission wants to raise or comment on or whatever? And again, seeing none, I'll proceed to the last thing, which was a meeting date. But what we've agreed now is that, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, member, I'm not the dictator here. You are the commission members. They just sort of brought me in from retirement to sort of try to help you folks out. So anyways, the idea is I'm going to be reaching out to the caucuses later this week and early next week, and then try to get a proposal to you for a public hearing and the parameters of that public hearing by sometime the end of next week, with the idea of the hearing would either be the following week, which is right before Labor Day, or at sometime the week after Labor Day, to at least have some general ideas and and opportunities for public input. Anybody have any other comments on that? Okay. Anything else we need to address before we adjourn? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Representative Kryzak. And I consider Representative Mr. Tardy to have seconded the motion by Mr. Kryzak. And all in favor, anybody opposed to the motion? Hearing no opposition, I will assume everyone else is in favor or neutral. And I will, at this point, adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. I'm going to be back in touch with some of you relating to the caucuses, and I'm going to try to go visit the caucus rooms in the next couple of days. But also, I'll try to be in touch by phone or computer with members of the caucus too. So thank you very much, and have a good day and a good weekend, and sort of gear up for perhaps a little more intense work with a little less notice over the next few weeks. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Your participation is valuable. Remember, try to interact with the counties in the districts where you are. Thank you very much, and we'll be back in touch next week. Have a good day, have a good weekend and all, and see you later. Appreciate your help.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.